Alright guys, chapter 4. Yeah, it's the longest chapter so far, probably like 10 minutes. I think you guys will like it because Vladimir is finally, as if you guys are this far, you know there's a neighbor that he's really liking, so he's gonna meet her. Chapter 4. In the poky and untidy hall of the lodge, which I entered trembling in every limb, I was met by a gray-haired old servant with a face the color of dark copper, surly little pig eyes, and the deepest wrinkles on his forehead and temples I'd ever seen in my life. He was carrying a plate on which there was a half-picked herringbone. Shutting the door which led into the other room with his foot, he snapped, "What do you want?" "Is the Princess Zazyekin at home?" I asked. "Vonnie Fatty," a cracked female voice screamed from within. The servant turned without a word, revealing as he did so the threadbare back of his livery with the solitary russet-crested button. He went away, leaving the plate on the floor. "Have you been to the police station?" said the same female voice. The servant muttered something in reply. "Eh? Is there somebody there?" said the voice again. "The young gentleman from next door." "Well, show him in." "Will you step into the drawing-room, sir?" said the servant, reappearing and picking up the plate from the floor. I collected myself and went into the drawing-room. I found myself in a small, not very tidy room. The furniture was shabby and looked as if no one had bothered to arrange it. By the window, in an armchair with a broken arm, sat a woman of about 50, plain, her hair uncovered, in an old green dress with a gaudy, worsted shawl round her neck. Her small black eyes pierced into me. I went up to her and bowed. "Have I the honor to address the Princess Zazyekin?" "I am Princess Zazyekin, and you are the son of Mr. V?" "That is so, ma'am. I have come to you with a message from my mother." "Won't you sit down? Bony fatty, where are my keys? You haven't seen them, have you?" I conveyed to I think MME is Madame. I conveyed to Madame Zazyekin my mother's reply to her note. She listened to me, drumming upon the windowsill with her fat, red fingers, and when I had finished, once again fixed her eyes upon me. "Very good, I'll be sure to call," she remarked at last. "But how young you are! How old are you, if I might ask?" 16, I replied with a slight falter. The princess extracted from her pocket a bundle of greasy papers covered with writing, lifted them to her nose, and began going through them. "A good age," she suddenly observed, turning and shifting in her chair. "Please make yourself at home. We are very simple here." Too simple, I could not help thinking with disgust as I took in her unsightly figure. At that instant another door flew open, and in the doorway there appeared the girl I had seen in the garden the evening before. She lifted her hand, and a mocking smile flitted across her face. "And here's my daughter," said the princess, indicating her with her elbow. "Zenochka, the son of our neighbor, Mr. V. What is your name, if I might ask?" "Vladimir," I replied, rising and stuttering from sheer excitement. "And your patronym?" Like last name? "Petrovich. Yes, I once knew a chief constable. He was Vladimir Petrovich, too. Phony fatty, don't look for the keys. They are in my pocket." The young woman continued to look at me with the same mocking smile, narrowing her eyes a little and inclining her head slightly. "I have already seen Monsieur Waldemar," she began. The silver round of her voice ran through me with a sort of sweet shiver. "You will let me call you so?" "Do, please," I stammered. "Where was that?" asked the princess. Her daughter did not answer. "Are you busy at this moment?" the young woman asked, without taking her eyes off me. "Oh, no, no." "Would you like to help me wind my wool? Come with me." She gave me a little nod and left the drawing-room. I followed her. In the room we entered, the furniture was a little better and arranged with more taste, though actually at that moment I was scarcely able to notice anything. I moved as in a dream and felt through my entire being an intense, almost imbecile sense of well-being. The young princess sat down, took a skein of red wool, or a skein of red wool, S-K-E-I-N, a skein of red wool, and pointing to a chair beside her, carefully undid the skein and laid it across my hands. All this she did without a word, with a kind of amused deliberation, and with the same bright, sly smile on her slightly parted lips. She began to wind the wool round a bent card, and then suddenly cast a look at me, a look so swift and radiant that I could not help lowering my eyes for an instant. When her eyes, for the most part half closed, opened to their full extent, her face would be utterly transformed, as if flooded with light. "What did you think of me yesterday, Monsieur Waldemar?" she asked after a short pause. "You disapproved of me, I suppose?" I want to pause there. The way, like, because you're gonna realize, you're gonna find out her age right now. Like the way she just like all of a sudden like invited him to go work on wool, and now she's asking, "What'd you think of me?" And like the way she looked at him, like she's obviously knows her beauty, one, and then so you disapproved of me, I suppose. I, princess, I didn't think anything. How could I? I replied in confusion. Listen, she said, you don't know me yet. I am very strange. I am very strange. I wish to be told the truth always. You are 16, I hear, and I am 21. You see, I am much older than you. That is why you must always tell me the truth. And do what I tell you, she added. Look at me. Why don't you look at me? So you realize that she's 21. I'm 34 years old. I just turned 34. There's 18-year-old by law women, right? Mentally probably not there yet, but there's 18-year-old women that are developed and they're attractive to even men in their 30s, right? She's 21. So when she says how much older, mentally she is, because when you get that freedom, right? 21 back in that age, dude, time they were being married off when they were like 15. So 21 at that age is, people were dying like in their 30s. So 21 is a woman, you know. So just once me being, I was 18, from 15 to 18, because at 18 you had that freedom and curiosity to go explore and be out in the world with, yeah, you still have your parents like trying to tell you, put rules on you, but you have society supporting you that you're an adult now. So like from 18 to 21, you're making tons of mistakes. You're learning a tremendously amount of lots. Like you have all that energy to explore. So why don't you look at me? I was plunged into an even deeper confusion. However, I did raise my eyes and look at her. She smiled, not as before, but as if to encourage me. Look at me, she said, lowering her voice caressingly. I did not find it disagreeable. I like your face. I have a feeling that we shall be friends. And do you like me? She added archly. Princess, I was beginning. First of all, you must call me Zenaida Alexandrovna. And secondly, how queer that children, she corrected herself, that young gentlemen do not say straight out what they feel. That is all very well for grown-ups. You do like me, don't you? Although I was very pleased that she should be talking so frankly to me, still I was a little hurt. I wished to show her that she was not dealing with a mere boy, and so putting on as solemn a manner as I could, I said as casually as I was able, "Of course I like you very much, Zenaida Alexandrovna. I have no wish to conceal it." She shook her head with deliberation. "Have you a tutor?" she suddenly asked. "No, I haven't had one for a long time." This was a lie. Scarcely a month had passed since I had parted with my Frenchman. "Yes, I see, you are quite grown up," she rapped me lightly over the fingers. "Hold your hands straight," and she busily began to wind the ball of wool. I took advantage of the fact that her eyes remained lowered to scrutinize her features. At first stealthily and then more and more boldly, her face appeared to me even more lovely than on the previous day. Everything in it was so delicate, clever, and charming. She was sitting with her back to a window which was shaded by a white blind. A sunbeam filtering through the blind shed a gentle light on her soft, golden hair, on her pure throat, on her tranquil breast. I gazed at her, and how dear she already was to me, and how near. It seemed to me that I had known her for a long time, and that before her I had known nothing and had not lived. She was wearing a dark, rather worn dress with an apron. How gladly would I have caressed every fold of that apron. The tips of her shoes looked out from under her skirt. I could have knelt in adoration to those shoes. And here I am sitting opposite her, I was thinking. I have met her. I know her. God, what happiness. I almost leaped from my chair in ecstasy, but in fact I only swung my legs a little like a child enjoying a sweet. I was as happy as a fish in water. I could have stayed in that room. I could have remained in it forever. Her eyes softly opened, and once more her clear eyes shone sweetly upon me, and again she gave me a gentle little smile. "How you do stare at me," she said slowly, and shook her finger. I blushed. She understands everything. She sees everything flash through my brain, and how could she fail to see it all and understand it all? Suddenly there was a sound from the next room, the clank of a saber. "Zina," cried the old princess from the drawing room, "By-Lozorov has brought you a kitten." By-Lozorov, some crazy Russian name, "has brought you a kitten." "A kitten," cried Zenaida, and darting from her chair threw the ball of wool into my lap and ran out of the room. I too got up, left the skein of wool and the ball on the windowsill, and stopped in amazement. In the middle of the room a small tabby cat was lying on its back, stretching out its paws. Zenaida was on her knees before it, cautiously lifting up its little face. By the side of the old princess, filling almost the entire space between the windows, stood a blond, curly-haired young officer, a magnificent figure with a pink face and protruding eyes. What a funny little thing, Zenaida kept repeating, and its eyes aren't gray, they're green, and what large ears. I do thank you, Victor Yegorich. It is very sweet of you. Yegorich. Victor Yegorich. The soldier whom I recognized as one of the young men I had seen the evening before smiled and bowed with the clink of his spurs and a jingle of his saber rings. You were kind enough to say yesterday that you wanted a tabby kitten with large ears, and here, you see, I have procured one. Your word is law. And he bowed again. The kitten uttered a feeble squeak and began to sniff the floor. It's hungry, exclaimed Zenaida. Bony fatty, Sonia, bring some milk. The maid in a shabby yellow dress with a faded kerchief round her neck came in with a saucer of milk in her hands and set it before the kitten. The kitten started, screwed up its eyes and began to lap. What a pink little tongue, observed Zenaida, almost touching the floor with her head and peering at the kitten sideways under its very nose. The kitten drank its fill and began to purr, delicately kneading with its paws. Zenaida rose and turning to the maid said casually, "Take it away." "In return for the kitten, your hand," said the soldier with a simper and a great shrug of his powerful body tightly encased in a new uniform. "Both of them," Zenaida replied and held out her hands to him. While he kissed them, she looked at me over his shoulder. I stood stock still and did not know whether to laugh, to say something, or remain silent. Suddenly I saw through the open door in the hall the figure of our footman, Fyodor. He was making signs to me. Mechanically I went out to him. "What is the matter?" I asked. "Your mamma has sent for you," he replied in a whisper. "Madame is annoyed because you haven't come back with the answer." So both of them, Zenaida, while he kissed them, she looked at me over his shoulder. I stood stock still and did not know whether to laugh, to say something, or to remain silent. Oh, that's the end of... Oh, no. So we still have a half a page for this chapter. "So your mama has sent for you," he replied in a whisper. "Madame is annoyed because you haven't come back with the answer." "Why, have I been here long?" "Over an hour." "Over an hour," I repeated automatically, and returning to the drawing room, I began to take my leave, bowing and clicking my heels. "Where are you off to?" asked the young princess, glancing at me over the officer's back. "I'm afraid I must go home, so I am to say," I added, turning to the old princess, "that you will honor us at about 2:00. "Yes, my dear sir, please say just that," she said. Okay, so the young princess asked, "Where are you off to?" "I'm afraid I must go home, so I am to say," I added, turning to the old princess, "that you will honor us at about 2:00. "Yes, my dear sir, please say just that," she said. The old princess hastily reached for a snuff box and took the snuff so noisily that I almost jumped. "That's right, say precisely that," she wheezily repeated, blinking tearfully. She wheezily. I bowed again, turned and walked out of the room with that uncomfortable sensation in my back which a very young man feels when he knows he is being watched from behind. "Now, Monsieur Waldemar, mind you come and see us again," cried Zenaida, and laughed once more. Why is she always laughing, I thought, as I returned home, accompanied by Fyodor, who said nothing to me, but walked behind me with a disapproving air. My mother scolded me and expressed surprise. Whatever could have kept me so long with the princess? I gave no answer and went off to my room. Suddenly I felt extremely depressed. I tried hard not to cry. I was jealous of the soldier. That's crazy. I feel like Zenaida is kind of, I don't know. It's a little silly because he's only 16, but I feel like I have a story about this. Maybe I could tell it later. My very first girlfriend, she actually took my virginity. I didn't take hers though, you know? And she was already experienced when I met her. But I was a senior in high school, and I guess it was like this young freshman kid. And I realized she was like, her and I were like already not doing so well. I got with her when I was like 15. And so I'm about 17, like 2 years later, 2.5 years later, as seniors. I noticed her and him were like having like this little relationship as I was still trying to hold on to the one we had. It was a fucked up time at that time. Kind of silly and embarrassing. I was just a boy, you know? 17 years old. I didn't know shit. Still don't, but yeah, it reminds me of that story. But either she just likes his attention, she just likes that little boyish crush, she likes the attention, you know? It's funny. We'll see.